Hello, this is Patrick from Ground to Dust with a video today about planning a new release. Typically, when I'm in the middle of mixing and mastering a new release, David and I start brainstorming about what the next thing is going to be, when we're going to do it, making plans so that if we want to keep momentum going, we can. And so this past fall, as I was finalizing the Shift album, we started talking about what comes next. We've had a few ideas of things we wanted to do, different styles, genres, whatever. We had some existing demos kicking around, but we also knew we were going to do our regular weekly creativity sessions, which I talked about on a previous video. So there was a need to figure out what sort of things to do and what to plan for and all that. When we started Shift, the plan was to do just an EP, 7 tracks maximum, and it wound up being a full-length album. This time around, we agreed that we really wanted to do EPs, to do fewer songs more quickly, so that we can do a few songs in a genre, in a style, with a sound, whatever, knock a few out, release it, and then do something else, instead of trying to either do a full album in a given sound or have a very mix and match disjointed album of a bunch of songs. Let's do some very concentrated, focused EPs of about 4 songs each. So we had a few different ideas of styles and genres and things that we wanted to do. There was some debate of, which one are we actually going to do? What will we put off and do next time? And we had this idea to make a series of connected EPs that would sound different, but were still connected in some way. Maybe not thematically, maybe thematically, but not necessarily thematically. But we would go in knowing that we're doing these 3 EPs. So we started to brainstorm, and we came up with what is codename the R.E.D project. It is a series of 3 EPs, each with 4 songs, and we're going to stick to that 4 song limitation in different styles and genres. So I wanted to talk about how I go about outlining in preparation for either a new single work or a new chapter of work in this case. One of the things I like to do once a musical direction has been selected is to put together a collaborative playlist in Spotify, and we can each throw in the different songs that we think of as points of reference, inspiration, examples, etc. in the genre we're shooting for. On previous albums where we didn't necessarily have a genre, but just some sounds and some impressions we wanted to go for, I put together these playlists. So, for example, here's a playlist of tracks that influenced Hyper Nothing, playlist of tracks that influenced Chronophobia, and a playlist of tracks that influenced Shift. So this helps foster some common language, points of reference for discussing what we're going for, and made some notes about the sort of inspiration for the first EP, reiterating 4 tracks, thinking maybe 1 to 2 vocals possibly. We've got the inspiration playlist that both of us have access to add things to and everything. And then, a loose track breakdown. This early in the game, everything is just a possibility, an idea. Hey, maybe we have this one, it'd be cool if we did that. We don't have to stick to any of this necessarily, but when you're trying to narrow down a set of demos to a finished product, it can be helpful to have a loose structure in mind, a skeleton to put those pieces and parts on. So for each of the 3 EPs, R, E, and D, we've got our playlist, our rough defining elements to discuss, maybe a slight track breakdown. And then individually, we went through the weekly creativity folders, both the recent one that we did over the last couple months, and then the previous ones, in case there were ideas that were cool but we didn't put on previous albums that maybe now would fit. And we listened through each of them individually, and we made lists of sort of our favorites. So we put together a table of all the ones that we liked and which EP we thought they fit for. initially and had votes on them. And that was a couple weeks ago we did that, and then this past weekend we revisited that where we each selected our top 8 for the REP specifically, and then had some runners up in there to function as tiebreakers if necessary. And what we found was that we had 6 tracks that were both at the top of our list, and then a handful of others that we both liked, but maybe one of us didn't like as much as the other, etc. So we have 6 confirmed. We both think they're great potential for this EP specifically that we now set up. We've got our project files and we're putting in our Ableton project files in this folder. We have the MP3s of them so that at any time the most up-to-date version of the MP3 is here and we can go and listen and share and download and whatever. And then for the production chart, we have a breakdown of what's the working title for each track, what's the current version for each track, is it checked out to somebody at this time, when did they check it out, what are some ideas thematically we're thinking about for this piece, what are the notes that each of us has about what needs to happen in the track. And so this just started this weekend. I guess you could say we are officially now working on the first of the 3 EPs. At some point, maybe in a month or so, we will take the 6 sketches we have, the 6 demos we're working on, and we will want to narrow those down to the 4 that are going to be on the EP. It's too soon right now. Some of them aren't really formed yet and fleshed out and haven't yet identified themselves. But once they do, once we have a better sense of what each of these 6 are, we can pick the 4 that really work well as a cohesive whole for what we're doing here. And then we will finish those 4 and put them out, and then go through the process again for each of the other 2 EPs. So this is exciting for us. Launching into new material again is always fun, especially when this time around there's both the sense of what we're doing, what we're going for, but we've also limited the scope and the scale. One of the things that was initially intimidating about some of the other releases was just how many songs we were playing with, and even when we started out saying it wasn't going to be too many, it did get out of control a little bit, and we, instead of saying, no, we can't do that, that's out of scope for what we initially decided on, we said, yeah, sure, let's add more. And that, in those cases, I'm glad we did that, but I think it'll suit us better if we stick to our plans a little more strongly, and if other ideas come up, we can set those aside and come back to them later. So this is how we outline a release and communicate with each other and share ideas and share files. As you see, we have all the folders set up for all 3 of the EPs now, even though it'll be a while before we get to some of them. But yeah, it'll be fun. You don't need to outline this much in advance if you don't want to, but I think it gives us both direction and structure, as well as things like the production chart do help give a sense of some degree of accountability, that it's written down somewhere who's doing what at what time and where they stand on that, and it can prompt you to be a little more punctual, I guess, with doing what you said you were going to do and giving it back so the other person can play with it some more as well. So in a way, this is our official announcement of the R.E.D project. It's not what it's actually going to be called, but that's what we're just codenaming it for the time being. That will be coming out later this year sometime, or at least certainly the first EP of it will. All right, more information later.